Our friend, we haven't talked to him in a long time, Dr. Lee Voulters from the beautiful Mississippi Gulf Coast. Good morning, Doc. How are you, sir? It's good to have you.
Good morning. Good morning. Good to be here.
It's good to see you, and thank you for joining us on television, also Channel 70 on C Spire and across the universe at SuperTalk TV. Man, where do we start? I mean, it's let's see, 5 o'clock our time or their time. And 11 o'clock, it's 11 o'clock their time is when this is going to happen on Saturday.
Yes, it's going to be about 2 hours from 11 a.m. London time till 1 p.m. So it's an hour shorter than his mother's coronation.
Let me go over some things here and just let you comment on them. King Charles has already been the UK's monarch for more than 7 months now. But I mean, it's going to be the first. A lot of first. What are some of the number one first that people need to know about this when it happens on Saturday?
Well, I mean, there's so many firsts. It's difficult to know where to start. I mean, obviously it's going to be compared to his mother. First of all, that was watched on a black and white television.
That's a good point.
Now for the first time, the coronation is going to be watched on cell phones and across the world by millions and millions of more people. I think there's some very interesting firsts. The King Charles is trying to stamp his personality as obviously different from his mother. His mother was sort of the last of the breed. I mean, she was an incredible woman. I think everyone agrees she was an amazing woman. May go down in history as the greatest monarch that we had, but she ruled as sort of a level above everybody else. And King Charles is all about inclusion, and the theme for his coronation is very interesting. It's all about inclusion and diversity. For first time, there's going to be other languages rather than English. Welsh, there's going to be a Welsh hymn sung, which has never happened before. There's going to be greetings in the 4 official languages of the United Kingdom, in obviously English and Welsh, and then Irish Gaelic and Scottish Gaelic. One of the most, it's going to be, whereas the most somber or solemn part of the ceremony is the anointing with oil, with oil, which is a secret to know exactly what the oil is. But that at one time was called the divine right of kings, and up until the 17th century, that was believed to be a direct link to God. That is not the case now, but symbolically, it's incredibly somber. Yeah. That was always in the canopy. Now this is going to be behind a special partition that the king had commissioned. But what is going to interest you most, as another first, is when the monarchs were crowned, then all the royalty, the peers, would kneel and pay homage, and then kiss the monarch on the monarch's right cheek. So the dukes would come down, the princes, everyone do it. That's not going to happen anymore. This is going to be the only one that's going to do that is going to be Prince William, his eldest son. Prince Harry's not going to do that. No one else is going to do that. But there's going to be something called a homage, and the Archbishop is going to encourage everybody sitting out with their televisions, millions of people across the UK, to claim allegiance to the king, which is an incredible. It's all about diversity and inclusion. King Charles was all about charitable foundations and community, and diversity, and this is what's going to reflect in this coronation.
Did he wait the longest period? I think 70 years to become king. He was what, 3 years old when?
Yes,
yeah. That is remarkable. Also the first. And we mentioned this a little bit earlier. Also, the first king to become king, who had a divorce.
I believe so, and that's another interesting thing. His wife Camilla has been called the Queen Consort, but that is being dropped. She's not going to be Queen Consort anymore. She's going to be Queen Camilla, which I thought was interesting.
Yes.
I mean, when Victoria was queen, Albert was never going to be king, but he was always Prince Consort, and he was always known as the Prince Consort. So Queen Consort is no longer Queen Consort; she's now Queen.
Now, let me ask you this. Where does she fit in here for her coronation or putting the official title on her? Will it be done at the same time or afterwards? And if it's done afterwards, will it be a simpler festivities?
No, it's going to be done. It's going to be done at the same time. Obviously, it's not such a. She won't be having the anointing with the holy oil, and it will not be behind the screen. But she will be crowned as well and wear one of the official crowns.
Let's see, King Charles will be crowned to the solemn religious ceremony. The ceremony is known as the Operation Golden Orb. I have no idea where that comes from.
Well, there is a golden orb that he will carry a scepter, which is very symbolic, and a golden orb, which is part of his symbolically, he is the head of state and the ruler of the United Kingdom. And it's larger than that. It's interesting that this specially commissioned screen that will screen him when he's anointed is made up of a tree and 56 leaves, and those 56 leaves, each one represents one of the countries of the Commonwealth. Obviously we're not like the United Kingdom is not like it used to be, but in terms of it's still a large Commonwealth, and there's still countries that are proud of close ties with the United Kingdom.
I think the hardest thing for us to relate to here, and Dr. Lee Voulters is my guest from the Gulf Coast. The hardest thing for us to relate to is this mostly a ceremonious type of now as a king. And then I read this, that when he becomes king, or he's already king, of course, but even after the coronation, he immediately when he became king upon his mother's death, he became head of state of the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and really a dozen other countries. He's also the titular head of the Church of England and head of the military and the judiciary, and he carries a host of other royal titles and duties. But how much influence does he have within the government itself to direct policy?
Well, he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't. He is the head of state, but he's not the head of government. I mean, and it's a very clear distinction. The prime minister. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, he's the head of the government. So it's an interesting question. He really does not have influence. They're not supposed to the monarchs deliberately are not supposed to get involved in politics. But having said that, when for instance the Prime Minister has to form a new government after an election, etc., he has to go and get permission from the monarch, from his mother, the Queen, when she was Queen, of course, and now from him. So it is an important part of tradition, but he doesn't influence the government really.
Where do you see the monarchy in 20, 30, 40 years?
That's an interesting question. In fact, a lot of the British journalists have gone out and to try and canvass the society to see exactly what's happening. I really think that I think it's going to be around. I think it's going to survive. I mean, obviously, the Sussexes, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle, have really put a shot across the bows of royalty, and they've really damaged a lot of things about it. But I think that King Charles, I mean, he all his life when he was Prince of Wales, he was all about the man in the street. And he's very lot of charitable foundations, and again, this coronation reflects that.
I want to ask you. We got a break coming up here, but I want to ask you because a lot of the eyes of the world is going to be on King Charles III during the coronation, but also on his two sons, Prince Williams, and also on Harry. He's no stranger to controversy. I mean, he went through all of this with Camilla and also with Princess Diana and the divorce. So I guess he can relate a little bit to both sons, one way or the other. But I'll ask about that when we come back with Dr. Lee Voulters. The coronation is on Saturday. We got that in the Kentucky Derby. What a weekend.
Thank you.
feel better now?
I do indeed.
A bit of pomp and circumstance. All right, let's fade it on 3. Dr. Lee Voulters is my guest here. The coronation service at Westminster Abbey will be marked the first time in 8 months that Charles will be seen publicly with William, the heir of the throne, and Harry, fifth in line to the throne of the months. Since the trio's last gathering in September for Queen Elizabeth's funeral, Harry released a best-selling memoir, Spare, which I'll bet you Dr. Voulters has not purchased, which publicly laid bare the rift between his immediate family members. So how do you think this is going to go? My understanding is Harry's going to be there maybe 24 hours. She is not going to be there. Meghan is not there. But what's your thoughts on this and how the people there are going to view this?
Yeah, it's a sad it's a sad state of affairs. But he only has himself to blame. Look, they had a poll among the British about popularity. He's less popular than Prince Andrew, with all the problems that Prince Andrew was accused of. I know it's remarkable. So you've heard the same stories that I have. He's coming in on his own. He's going to stay less than 24 hours. He's going to jump on a private jet and get back for his 4-year-old's birthday party. He's going to sit 10 rows back. I mean, as I said before, the allegiance to the monarch has been changed to only one person. So only his older brother will kneel and pledge allegiance to his father at the coronation. He won't be wearing military uniform. I mean, all those things. So he's been putting in his place. He's being put in his place. He won't be on the balcony because he's not one of the functioning royals, so to speak. So he really has been put in his place, indirectly, if not directly.
It is a shame because just looking at this on a personal basis, as far as Meghan is concerned, this is the coronation of a king. Doesn't happen every day. You are actually a member of the family, and your 4-year-old's birthday party? Come on, that's a slap in the face.
Yes, I mean, a lot of people said they shouldn't have been invited, but and I think one does not know, but the king obviously reached out, or Buckingham Palace reached out and said, "Look, you're invited to the coronation," and they made a decision that Meghan Markle did not want to go and would not go. And I think it speaks to the behavior. I don't think anyone's surprised that she did that. I mean, it speaks to her behavior and grandstanding.
How do you do this succession? Prince William's is next in line for the throne under the British line of succession. But how do you do this if you've got two sons? What happens if you had twins?
That's a great question. Whoever the oldest twin was would be the next in line. And
their children.
You may miss it by a minute or two.
Well, I don't think it's ever happened, but it certainly is an interesting question. Charles was first married to Lady Diana Spencer, later known as Princess Diana. The royal couple separated in 1992. Apparently he had this. Were you following all of this? I'm sure you were, back in the hot headlines of the divorce and the cheating and everything else. So, I mean, the guy has been through a lot of controversy and weathered most of that. So you think that makes him look at what's going on with Harry in a different view?
Perhaps, I think actually, to be honest with you, in those days, I was much more interested in as a medical student and then, a young doctor. And with my career, I really didn't take that much notice of it. But, I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. One is that, he had this woman, he married another woman under false pretenses. But the other way is, true love will out. And he always was in love with this woman. Yeah. And he stood up to his family. Can you imagine the pressure he was under not to pursue this relationship with Camilla and not to get divorced? I mean, he was the future king of England. Yeah. And, can you imagine the pressure his parents put him under not to do it? And he was strong. And he's been true to his word. He's true. I mean, I think he was a remarkable father when Princess Diana died. I mean, I think one could see how supportive he was of his two sons at that time, and I think it came through that he's a great father. And I mean, and he's proving himself to be his own person, and I think he has very high moral and ethical standards. And again, how he's pursuing his monarchy the way he was Prince of Wales. He's a monarch of the people. He's about community, and it shows through, and diversity, and all that shows through with the coronation preparations and this 3-day event and the concert afterwards, and then these block parties, etc. And encourage. And he's invited. There's like 1,200 volunteers, charity volunteers, that are invited to the coronation, which is unprecedented before. I mean, there's only 2,000 guests, and 1,200 of them are going to be these community volunteers and leaders.
You talked about how him being a father and, of course, also a husband, but he's also a brother. He's got some siblings, doesn't he? I think he's got a sister and 2 brothers. He
does indeed. Yeah, he has his Princess Anne, who is the Princess Royal, and then he has 2 brothers. Prince Andrew, who unfortunately is best known for the horrible controversy he's mixed up with, and then Edward is the youngest son, who was Count of Essex, and I think his title's changed now. Now that his brother's king. But yes.
I think we've got some American entertainers who are going to be over there, but it should be a lot of festivities, and something that most of us living have never seen before, the coronation of a king. So it will be interesting coming up. And it's not like you won't be, if you miss it, you won't be able to see it somewhere, because as Dr. Voulters mentioned, we will be watching this on slightly larger screens than the last time it happened.
Yeah, it's going to be an incredible event. It's, if you like pomp and circumstance, you're going to be riveted to your television screen. It's going to be incredible. It's really amazing. It's a much larger scale than the Queen's funeral in terms of tradition and procession, etc. It's going to be a wonderful spectacle.
We joked earlier about the Kentucky Derby starting at 9:00 in the morning. I'm not sure what time this starts, but it probably differs on different channels. But you'll be able to see it live and in living color, and there will be a lot of commentary one way or the other on that one. Final thoughts, sir?
No, I think it's it's a piece of history that we're all going to be part of, and we'll always remember this. And I think it marks a new chapter. His mother, King Charles' mother, was beloved, and she was an amazing woman. And he has to stamp his personality, and I think he will, and I think he'll do an excellent job and be an excellent monarch.
Doc, thank you, sir. Haven't had you on for a sundry of different things out there as far as the legislature, as far as COVID's concerned, as far as the hospitals are concerned. You've always been good input on that one, and anytime you have something you want to speak in, just give me a holler. Give me a call.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Always good talking to you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Dr. Lee Voulters, physician, neurologist, Gulfport, Mississippi, and it is always good to pick his brain as a neurologist. Get it, Perez? You get that, Perez? To pick his brain on different subjects.